The people's revolution can start in Mandurah. Martin North, John Adams in the interest of the people. Hello, John.
Hi, mate. How you going?
Pretty good. How are you?
Excellent.
So we've got a very special guest today who's really right on the front line with regard to the Western Australian situation.
Yes. We have James Yates, who's running in the local council elections for Mandurah, which are coming up on the 19th of October. The pre-poll starts on the 25th of September, which is this week. But the reason why we thought we would invite James onto the program is, we have heard, you and I have been railing against the political system and the quality of politicians for the last 12 months at least. Quite a bit of our viewers come to us because they are frustrated with the quality of our politicians' political leadership. So there's a whole host of problems at all levels of government, federal, state, and local. When we did our show earlier this year, in I think June, July, around the economic massacre of Mandurah, we got a lot of pushback. We got pushback from the mayor in Mandurah, from the state MP who's Labor, from the federal MP Mr. Hastie who's Liberal, we sort of held our line about what we said. There was a dichotomy of opinion between what the politicians said, which we were either exaggerating our point of view, or we were even we were accused of using fake statistics, and yet a whole bunch of locals contacted you behind the scenes, said no, our reporting was accurate. Well, there was one man in Mandurah who went public and said that not only did we the reporting was accurate, that in some cases we actually underreported what was really going on, and that man is our guest today in terms of Mr. James Yates. So one of the things that he did say, so he wrote a piece for the Mandurah Coastal Times on the 30th of July 2019, and the key sentence from the quote from the piece was, quote, what I will say is that I've witnessed the conditions the video speaks about, and the video was our video. So I thought this was important, that here is, a former police officer, someone who's been in business, someone who's lived in the town for 2 decades. He's running for council because he wants to actually make a difference in the community. And we're not here to endorse any particular candidacy. But given that he came to our defence when we tried to call out these issues and the politicians smashed us, I thought it'd be worthwhile to bring James on and for him to talk about the issues of Mandurah and for also for him to outline what would he hope to achieve if he's elected.
Right, John. Well, thanks for that introduction. And James, welcome to the show. To start with, can you just give a brief description about your background and what's your connection with Mandurah?
Well, my brief background is that I'm American by birth, and I came to Australia in 1973. I served with the U.S. Navy at Exmouth, Western Australia. That's a communications facility. I'm an Australian citizen, and I've lived in Australia for about 45 years. And I'm here to stay, I've got to tell you. I like the place that much. My first grandson was born about 4 weeks ago, so I've got a second generation Aussie thing going. But I served as a WA police officer after I got out of the Navy, and at times my life was at risk. And I've authored a book about my frontline policing experience. It's called 9370. That was my police regimental number. Sooner or later, everyone pays a price. But in 2005, I retired and I became a director owner of a real estate business. And I've lived in Mandurah for 20 years. This is my home, and my family lives here.
So in July, so after Martin and I did our show, The Economic Massacre of Mandurah, and we got a strong public reaction from the people in Mandurah, you decided to go public, and you wrote an opinion piece for the Mandurah Coastal Mail. Why did you decide to go public, and what did you hope to communicate to the people of Mandurah in the piece that you wrote?
Well, I watched the video, and I said to myself, they're not really telling the whole story. It's worse than that. And I set out to show how it was worse. I went public because I want to quote Abraham Lincoln, who said that to sin by silence when they should protest makes cowards of people. And of course, he was the president, U.S. president during the Civil War. So he had to speak up. Also, Edmund Burke, who was an Irish statesman, he said the only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good people to do nothing. So I spoke up about it. And I set out to show that the video really, there's more to the video. And I've talked to people around town. I've documented what I've seen. I've posted it online, and the paper picked it up and ran with it. A lot of people have doubted what they've seen on the video. Many of them are in denial, but many of them, I'm glad to say, support me and my outspokenness, if you want to say that's what it is. But we'll just find out how much support I have on 19th of October when the elections close.
James, one of the questions I've got is you've been talking about the meth zombies, which that's a term we've used in the past. And can you explain what that is in the context of Mandurah?
Yes, meth zombie, it's a phenomena. It's happening in Perth as well. I understand it's really bad in Perth, worse in Perth. But meth zombie is someone who's under the influence of the drug, or they're suffering a drug hangover. And there can be violent shouting, they're yelling to someone who isn't there. They're unpredictable people. They have this crazed look in their eyes, and they walk around like a zombie, if you've ever seen a zombie walk before. So it's quite bizarre behavior.
Is there a link between the downfall of the WA economy and Mandurah and people turning to drugs, or was there a drug problem, during the boom times as well?
I think the boom times, it wasn't as visible. I think it's worse now because the boom times have gone. So what I've observed in town when I walk around is openly dealing of drugs. I could give you several examples of recent examples where I was just walking around the corner from my house into the town and came across a drug deal transaction taking place. Later on during the week at a shopping center, I pulled up to park and witnessed drug deals taking place. And there was no doubt about it, drug deals. I was a police officer. I was trained to observe these things. And it's just done in the open nowadays. So I think the crime nowadays is driven by the addicts, the addictions to drugs and alcohol. And that's a big problem that Mandurah faces at the moment, is the homelessness and the drug usage. Mandurah, unfortunately, has a reputation of being known as Methandra. Now, I've been criticized for saying negative things about Mandurah, but I only do so because I want to make it better. We have to acknowledge the problems here, and some people aren't willing to do that. It's like a person who gets cancer, and at first they just live in denial and say, no, it's not that bad. But then their family and friends keep nagging them to go get it checked out, to do something about it. And hopefully they listen to common sense and go get it checked out and deal with it. Other people who don't, they pay the consequence of the cancer. And we're at that point now in Mandurah that people need to pay attention to this cancer because it will only get worse. Listen, law and order is the bedrock of our community. And if the bedrock is strong, then the community will be okay. But if the bedrock is cracking, then the community will crumble. And there's signs our community is crumbling. I have conversations quite often with people. In fact, I just had conversations today with 3 council workers. I get out on the street, I walk around, I engage and talk to people. I find out their opinions. And I was just walking past these 3 council workers and overheard their conversation about the homelessness and the drug issues in Mandurah. And so I interrupted them with their permission and joined in their conversation. And 2 of the workers are females. And they told me of their experiences. One was kind of horrifying, and she will not work on her own in broad daylight in the CBD because of her experience, a negative experience she had. So there was another male working there with her. Now these 3 city employees, they deal with the public. So they're well versed in what's happening in Mandurah. So they're talking about it. People are talking about how bad it is, how they don't feel safe in Mandurah, even during the day. I mean, that's pretty bad when 3 city employees don't feel safe to work by themselves, and they have to have other people. I've witnessed walking through the Mandurah foreshore, and my wife's been with me. I'm not exaggerating any of this, but this is stuff that people don't want to know. They don't want it to get out because it gives Mandurah a bad reputation. But these homeless people, and a lot of them have mental health issues, and they're high on drugs. They frighten the families and the visitors and the tourists that come down here. And I've seen the reactions of the tourists and the families. It's frightening for them. And it's not a good look. And so we've got to be honest and say the cancer's there. It is a negative thing, but you have to deal with it, and then it'll get better. But I just come up against this attitude with some people that, oh, let's just concentrate on the positive things of Mandurah. Mandurah's so good, and it is. It is. But they just want to ignore the negative and concentrate on, pink unicorns and everything's fine, and that's not my style. And a lot of people are speaking up. Listen, tomorrow I have a meeting with the people, some people in a community called Lake Clifton. Lake Clifton is like 40 minutes drive south of here. They're having a crime wave down there, and the police don't even come. It's too far to drive, and by the time they get there, the criminals are gone. The police issue is a whole different, separate thing that we could deal with. But people are saying we've had enough. Something needs to be done. We had a police rally a couple of weeks ago, the call for more police. It was well attended, but did we get any more police? No, we didn't get any more police. Why? Because in the last 2 years, there's been more police who've taken redundancies and resigned than there are new recruits to take place. In 2017, the police commissioner said we needed 500 new police officers. That was back in 2017. The police union said we needed 1,000, but they both agreed they would settle for 500. Here we are 2 years later. How many have we got? Well, the numbers have actually gone backwards. We haven't got anywhere near 500. We're lucky if we've got like 20 new ones over the last 2 years. There's been a $250 million budget cut from the police. The commissioner openly admitted that's going to affect frontline policing in the communities, and it has. Everyone knew it would, because you have slower response times, and there were 100 public service jobs cut from the police department, so they had to pull 100 police off the street to do the jobs behind the desks. So in 2018, 150 redundancies were taken. That's a lot of guys, and women to experience to lose. And then the government put a hiring freeze on. So the police numbers have actually gone backwards for recruiting. And there's just not enough police to go around statewide.
Obviously, what Martin and I have been sort of talking about for more than a year is that we've got a big debt bubble. It's concentrated in the property sector. When the property sector and the debt bubble becomes a systemic crisis, you're going to see a whole host of big economic and social costs that come with it. That's why I went to Mandurah, because Mandurah, according to Martin's data, but other factors suggest that Mandurah is one of those forward-leaning indicators for the whole country. And so you're saying that since the boom has sort of fallen away, the economic, so the social issues around homelessness and crime has intensified, but what's also exacerbated the issues in Mandurah has been cuts to essential services vis-a-vis the police, because the current Western Australian government has cut quite a significant amount of money from the police budget. So is that a fair summation of what you've witnessed in Mandurah?
Yes, that's a fair and accurate summation, and it can be easily documented that's the case. Now, Methandra, unfortunately, is named Methandra for a reason, and it's a place that the federal government has chosen to drug test welfare recipients. Why? Because it's known as Methandra. There's only 3 places in Australia that the federal government is going to drug test welfare recipients. The other 2 places are on the East Coast, and the other one is right here in Mandurah. We have a soup kitchen in town, and it's over 100 people attend there every day. It has created antisocial behavior that scares and frightens the tourists. It has affected the businesses. The businesses are complaining. We need to stop enabling this sort of antisocial behavior. We need to care for the truly homeless people, but most of these people are there on the street by choice. They're drug addicts with mental health problems, and it's their choice to be there. But it's affecting Mandurah Central Business District.
James, so my question to you then is, what needs to be done? So what is your pitch, I guess, to voters, and what are the key changes that you would want to see to start addressing some of the chronic issues that you've been talking about?
Well, my platform is Safe Streets. It's going to take a bipartisan effort between the political parties here in Mandurah to get some resources down here. And what has happened of lately is one party blames the other for the lack of money and the conditions, and I'm saying get over the blame. That doesn't solve anything. Start working together if you care for this community and address the problem. So I haven't seen that happen vocally. I will be pushing for more police officers. I don't remain quiet on these issues. There's a groundswell of support in the community for more police officers, but more police officers alone won't solve it. It has to be a holistic approach with the mental health department, community welfare. But what I'm saying is Mandurah has a problem, a meth problem, and these people who don't really want to deal with it or sweep it under the carpet is not good enough. The community is having some serious negative consequences because of that attitude and because nothing's changing. 2 years ago, the deputy mayor was walking out, Mandurah, she was walking out of the office to get in the car, and she got carjacked by 2 criminals with knives. They held a knife to her, carjacked her, and drove her around town. That was frightening for her. She's really scared. That's happening to our city councilor. So I would think that was a bit of a wake-up call. If it can happen to them, well, it's happening to a lot of people. But we just can't keep doing the same thing over and over again and expect different results. We've got to do something different.
So James, so I mean, with you saying that, so even though the politicians in Mandurah came out and attacked Martin and I for our commentary, you're basically saying that there is no leadership in the town, there is no consensus, there is a blame game and nothing gets done and the problems are getting worse, and you're hoping to get elected to basically provide impetus to actually get everyone working in the right direction?
Well, to be fair, there have been efforts by Mandurah City. It's a start, what they're doing, but there won't be. There's nothing permanent. For example, they moved some police officers into the Mandurah CBD for foot patrols, beat patrols. So there was a high visible presence in the CBD. That has quietened things down a little bit. You know, it has made a difference. And that's what we've been saying all along. We need more police on the beat and visible presence. So that's not a permanent situation. Those police will be moved on. And what's going to happen after they're moved on? The city has employed for 2 years, the past 2 years, 2 security guards who walk around and patrol the CBD and the foreshore. But they have no powers to do anything. In fact, I was talking to them the other week, and one of them was assaulted. The police came several hours later and arrested this guy, but he's well known to police. But these security officers are doing what they can, but they have to end up calling police. And the comment is always from people who call police is they have to wait too long. I reported a rape in progress in front of my house late one night, and 45 minutes later, the police came. One of these council workers I was talking to today, she's a female. She had this rather frightening experience, and it was only 100 meters from the police station, and it took the police 35 minutes to get there. The police response is so slow, and that's because there's not enough of them to go around. So I'm not into blaming. I'm just observing that there needs to be more cooperation between the political parties. I mean, one political party is for the drug testing and the other one isn't. But this is what I'm saying. We've got to do something different. We just can't keep going the way we're going. Otherwise, we get nowhere and the cancer spreads and gets worse. But the city of Mandurah has made efforts. The mayor, I give him credit for that. He is trying, but he needs a lot more support. He needs some strong people in there with him.
Sure, James. Now, I mean, look, I was going to just ask you before you wrap up the interview is, obviously, you and your wife have been involved in the Mandurah property sector for quite a while. So, can you give us a sense about, what have you seen with the property sector? With, I mean, the data says property prices have fallen 30% in nominal terms. In real terms, 40%. Rents have fallen 30%. So obviously, I've been hearing some stories from locals in the last week that more small business, particularly in the retail sector, they're closing up, partly because of the crime issue, partly because the economy is bad. So on the economic front, what are you seeing in the Mandurah economy, and what's your ideas and plans to help rejuvenate the economy because obviously there is an issue with unemployment in the town?
Yes, there are various reasons why the businesses are closing down, but a very common one that the owners tell me is because the lease rents are too high, and business corporations will not lower their leases to help out the businesses. That's one issue. So I hope to communicate with the business owners and to help them negotiate for lower leases on their properties that they rent. So that might be of help, but there's a lot of business support down here for small businesses. I want to make contact with them and see how it's all coordinated and see if they can have a bigger voice in helping the businesses that are struggling. Look, there are a lot of vacant commercial properties in Mandurah, and it's just crazy that they're building more that just sit there vacant. The rents are low. The property market, as recently, there's more activity in the property market because it's coming into springtime and summer. However, having said that, the prices aren't moving upwards at all. And what we're finding too is that people who are in mortgage stress, the banks, instead of foreclosing on them, are asking the owners to employ a real estate agent to get the house sold so their house doesn't go on the books as a foreclosure.
Do you think the federal and state police need to get involved in some way? Because clearly these issues are structural, and they're not just in the local area, and there is a limit to what the local community and local representatives can do. So what do you need from both state and fed?
I would say that we have to get the state on board first. If we get the state on board, then the federal would follow. So it's just one step at a time. First of all, we've got to get the people in Mandurah aboard, and then that would force the state to take notice of us, and then it would be up to the state to address the federal issues. So that's sort of the chain of command that I'm looking at. We've got to do the groundwork here and take a step at a time. So I think we have to change leadership. Counselors down here, as you know, there's 16 candidates for 6 positions. So maybe a change will be good, but we just can't keep doing the same thing and expect it to get better, because it won't.
Okay, and how do people get in contact with you, James?
Well, I have a Facebook page. It's at jamesyates.cw. And they can go on there, and I have my contact details on that.
Okay, well, we'll put the link on our website as well below the video. And I just want to say thank you very much for spending the time with us and for spelling out, I think, the issues that we know are there, and recognise, I guess, that there's a lot to do. John, your final thought?
Yeah, so yeah, look, a lot of people for the last few months have been complaining about the quality of politicians right across the country. They've been complaining about the political system. I've been saying for a couple of years the country's headed in the wrong direction. Things are clearly going wrong in Mandurah. We have someone who's an honest guy, former cop, business experience. He's saying he's willing to call out the issues and actually try to take the town in a new direction. So we're not here to endorse James or any other candidate, but if people do want a different voice, here is someone that they should consider, have a look at, and see if whether they're willing to get on board with James's campaign.
I really appreciate your time, James. Thank you very much, and good luck with the campaign.
Thank you. Bye now.
Thanks, mate.
And just before we close, John, let's underscore again where James is actually standing.
Yes, so James is going to be running in Coastal Ward. So there's various wards in the local council election. So he's running in Coastal Ward. There are 2 candidates that will be selected in that ward, and there are other candidates similar to James in some of the other wards as well who are wanting to take a principled stand. And so for those who are interested in the race, feel free, if you're local or across the country, feel free to contact James and some of the other candidates, and obviously, try to help people who want to make a change to Australia.
John, thank you very much. Martin North, John Adams, in the interest of the people. We'll see you next time.